Hey guys, welcome back to another HBM video. Today we're going to be looking at a setup that is nuclear oriented, but you can still get it before you drill oil. Now this took me a while to create, especially with all of the shenanigans that have to go around it. But first we're going to have to figure out, I'm going to have to tell you guys how this is going to work. So I've tried out a few setups using regular natural uranium, but without having moderated fuel rods, which is only available either post the nuclear age or basically halfway down into your oil setup, or actually just in the bismuth era. There was only so much that you could do with natural uranium, so I decided probably the best way would be to use a Chicago pile with regular uranium to turn it into plutonium. You only need a tier 2 anvil for this, so it works. You'll make regular uranium rods, use neutron sources, and what you'll get in return are these Chicago pile plutonium rods. And with those, you can make reactor grade plutonium, which is what you would be using for every setup. So every setup would use medium enriched plutonium-239. Once again, not exactly perfect, not the absolute greatest fuel rod you could ever have, but it's actually really solid and it gets the job done basically all the time. So first things first, let's look at the Chicago Pile setup I have. Just like that, you have all the little neutron sources in there. Now, you might be skeptical, yeah, right, how are you going to get neutron sources and all that before you start drilling for oil? Well, let me show you. When you take uranium ore, the first instinct would probably be to turn into uranium crystals and then probably put it in an electrolysis machine. You'll get the most out of it. It'll be exactly what you need. But the issue with that is that it's post petroleum, and we're trying to get something that's before petroleum. So what can you do? You can simply just centrifuge the uranium ore. Granted, probably won't be the best, easiest way to do it, but it'll get the job done because you'll get radium and you'll get uranium. Now, the reason why that's important is because radium you'll be able to turn into your neutron source billets, and with that you'll get the RUMK fuel, and you'll also get your Chicago pile fuel. It's really everything you need. And afterwards, you can remove all these neutron sources and replace them with plutonium neutron sources, which will probably be better in the long run. And just like that, you have a decent setup. Now all you need to do is all your uranium Chicago power rods, turn them into plutonium, and that's how you get your fuel. Now the first thing I want to do is talk about setup number one. It's a small setup, it's a worth it setup, it's everything you really need. Now nuclear power before you actually reach a nuclear stage is very risky because you don't have the tools to deal with it. But let me show you the few basic things you're going to need that you can make. First things first is a high performance hazmat suit. It's not really the best, but it actually is really good. And to make it even better, you can use lead cladding. The reason that you can use any cladding at all is because cladding requires rubber or latex, and latex you can make pretty easily with just dandelions or by pressing jungle wood. So if you find a jungle, you can do that. If you have dandelions, which are found everywhere, you can do that. And then the rest is a matter of lead and duct tape, which if you can't find any slimes, I recommend going underground or in swamps. You'll be able to find them there, and that way you don't need to get an ore acidizer, which requires DESH. That's nuclear age, or not exactly nuclear age, but you get the point. So you put on your lead cladding. Make sure you have tungsten reachers. These are going to be very important for moving nuclear fuel around. And just like that, when you have a Geiger counter on you, you're resisting a lot of radiation. And now, even if you have all the plutonium fuel rods in the world, let's just say let's say you have a lot of reactor grade plutonium billets, you won't immediately die when you hold them. In fact, if I go into survival, I take less than 1 rad a second. Yes, I am still being irradiated, but I am not in any immediate danger of dying. Now, as soon as you throw away the tungsten reachers, that changes. Now I'm being irradiated pretty quickly. The tungsten reachers help a lot, but you also need the high performance hazmat suit. You cannot go without either one. You could use a regular hazmat suit, but once again, high performance tungsten reachers, it's really all you need for the time being. So now let's look at the actual setup. Here we have a small put together RBMK with an irradiation channel that you can use to get thorium fuel for other fuel rods, tritium for future fusion projects. You can even get no, never mind, you can't do that. You can do a lot. You can get glowing mushrooms for that glowing mushroom soup or that strong right away. Those are always good. You can turn coal into syngas. Once again, syngas is very good. I will always defend it whenever I can. Coal tar also, that's good. Think around gold 198, although that isn't entirely useful in and of itself. I mean, pretty powerful RTGs. You can get a very powerful RTG before you actually need it. In fact, let me see how much energy that makes. Because my hyperactive squirrel brain is on autopilot, I went ahead and made this. We're just gonna fill it up with the gold 198, and see how much energy that produces. Looks like we did not actually need that many gold pellets for it to be at maximum power. I think 600 is the maximum. Although it does decay pretty quickly, you can make a steady stream of it. And yeah, look at that. It is not bad at all. And also, you get mercury. That's always good. Good to stock up your mercury before the dash is actually needed. Alright, so let's actually look at this. As an irradiator, it has these fuel rods, but how are you supposed to actually make this? Well, I have everything you need. Can look a little daunting in this little crate right here. Is that a lot of steam turbines? Yes. Is that a lot of steam condensers? Absolutely. Will this be very grindy and expensive? Unfortunately, yes. However, I would say it's worth it. First of all, I'm going to explain everything in the setup and why you do not need oil production to get it. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, steam turbines? Hold on. Those require polymer, which is a post-petroleum product. Or those battery sockets, that lithium-ion batteries, that also requires polymer, a post-petroleum product. And to that I say, yes, you are correct. If you look at oxygen, that in and of itself is difficult to get, to an extent. But let me tell you why you can actually get this before you start drilling for petroleum. See, the operative word is drilling. You can get this before you start drilling for petroleum. If you explore a graphitic schist cave, whose rocks are blue, like this, ding ding ding, it's pretty easy to find this thing called gas shale. As you can see, if I just kind of like put it in here, cover it a bit, pretty easy to spot because if it's lighter color. And with gas shales, you can get petroleum gas. You can get petroleum gas if you use gas shales, and that will allow you to have access. That will give you access to a lot of things, namely polymer. With polymer, you can then make your lithium-ion batteries and all the other stuff that you want. It's a really good thing to find, and although it is inherently dependent on you finding it, I would say it's worth it. So what about the setup itself? Is the setup useful? Well, let's demonstrate. We're going to go right over here. We're going to grab some RBMK rods. Once again, plutonium is going to be the best bet. We're going to use a bunch of those. Just kind of insert those rods in here. Then we grab our neutron source, and we activate it. We're going to put our neutron source in a crate to kind of hold on to that. And if you look at the RBMK console, which you technically don't need, you can see it goes up, starts producing steam, and that steam is quickly taken away into all the steam turbines we have. Energy is produced at a steady rate. It doesn't really look like all that much, but let's do the math. We can round this down because rounding down is always better. Looks like it's reached 800 kHs. So that's 800 times 4. It's making about 3.6 or 3.2 mHs per second, which is a really good power setup, especially before you actually start drilling oil. If you go over here, you can also turn this up to 100. And yes, I have overclocked this setup to be ready to deal with this at 100%. And the flux goes up. As you can see, it is just stabilized. Lots of steam is being made. We can check this thing here. It's making whatever it is it makes. You can check over here. All the batteries seem to be full. So for experimental purposes, let's see how much energy this is making. Here's about 8.2 mHs per second, and it is only going up. This is actually due to a lesser known process, or not exactly process, but attribute of these fuel rods, known as, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's basically how its flux behaves as it depletes. Plutonium's flux slowly goes up while it depletes before it goes down, like regular rods, so it will actually end up making more energy the longer it depletes until it is no longer useful. But this is making about 8.2 mHs, going up to 3. That is inherently incredible for any RBMK setup. And to turn it off, you can't exactly turn it off, but that's also where these tungsten reachers come in. Once you get up here, yes, they are radioactive. Yes, they are very hot. The tungsten reacher will protect you from most of that. In fact, I'm going to go into survival as I grab these out. As you can see, I have all these on me. According to my Geiger counter, I am being irradiated slowly but surely, but not at a dangerous rate. And I'm also not being affected by its heat being that it's 562 degrees. Then all you really need to do is throw them here. They'll cool down, and then you can either use them later or not. It's all up to you here. So what are the pros and cons of this setup here? Well, starting off with the cons, because you like to end on a good note. As you can see, it does require a lot. This is a very grindy setup to get. It does require a lot of materials, a pretty niche or resource that is moderately difficult to find. And it also requires a lot of steam turbines and steam condensers. Generally, when you have a nuclear setup, you would use something like an auxiliary cooling tower and Leviathan steam turbines or big steam turbines. But instead, we have just a crap ton of steam condensers and a bunch of steam turbines. It's definitely grindy to get. Another con is that you can't process the fuel right away because you don't have access to a Colex, and you don't really have a Purex either. So there's not really much you can do with the fuel rods once you're done with them. You just kind of rack up discarded pieces of RBMK chunks. All right, so those are the cons. What about the pros? Number one, it's incredible energy generation for the early game, especially with as you are having just a whole bunch of energy in an actual nuclear reactor, as well as an irradiation channel for a whole bunch of other things ready to go before you even start drilling for oil is incredible. It is absolutely extremely good, and it can also be upgraded as you go. Speaking of the upgrading as you go, although it does use a lot of steam turbines and a lot of steam condensers, once you actually do start drilling for oil, which will be pretty easy because, I mean, let's be honest, your derricks will run a lot smoother if they have a steady energy supply than if they didn't. You can just upgrade this. You can tear off all of these steam turbines, get an industrial one, take down all these steam condensers, get yourself an auxiliary cooling tower, and it'll run like never before. Now, the only reason why would you even keep these if that's the case, if that's what you're going to do? Well, you can actually just put the steam turbines and your steam condensers in a chest somewhere and then use them on later projects depending on how well that you believe it's working. Another pro is that even though having just a bunch of random spent fuel rods in a crate can be perceived as a bad thing, it can actually be really useful, and let me tell you why. When you enter the nuclear age, let me go over how it would generally start. You just made your nuclear reactor and you're running it and you're running it and you're running it and you're trying to get as much energy as you can, but you're also trying to deplete the fuel rods and it takes so long. You're sitting there waiting for hours upon hours just for these things to be depleted so that what? You can reprocess them, get something better. Well, if you have already had this set up for a while and you've already depleted your rods, that problem is now a thing of the past. Now all you need to do is make the machinery to process them, and you can process them. It's easy as that, and it already gives you access to a lot of materials. For example, plutonium, medium-rich plutonium-239 rods that you have, let's say you only deplete them moderately because, I mean, you don't really need that much energy for the early game. You get a large amount of your plutonium back, and you also get plutonium-240 and plutonium-239. That plutonium-239, you can get some rare isotopes of plutonium, or you can decay it, and you can get, I mean, not really the best things, but you can get some stuff that can help you out, like zirconium, lead, uranium. Meanwhile, with the plutonium-240 nuclear waste, you kind of the same bit, but you can get bismuth, and that is the big thing right there. Being able to get bismuth pretty quickly without having to wait for the long and dreary process of getting your plutonium or your whatever you have all depleted beforehand or after the fact, massive boost. Also, having a bunch of thorium or tritium or glowing mushrooms for your strong right-of-ways before you actually end up needing it is always a good thing. So, let's go over this. The pros are simple. You get a whole lot of energy generation. You get to dramatically shorten the waiting game with already having depleted nuclear fuel at the ready. You get free irradiation channels for other things that you might need and that you're going to need later on. And the quick cons, well, it is a very grindy process, and you do need to access some pretty niche resources in order to make this. So, what would I rate this? Overall, I would rate this about a 7 out of 10. It's not the best given how much resources you need and how much time you need to spend to make this in the first place, but I do believe that the pros outweigh the cons, and I would use this. I would use this in a survival world, especially one that I'm recording. To be honest, I didn't use this in the one that I was recording because I'm kind of figuring this stuff out as I go. So, once again, it is your decision to make how you would like to run your HBM world. You can use an early game nuclear reactor, or you could stick with the basic diesel, or you could do that. You could go for the boiler setup. You can go for a Stirling engine setup. It is your choice. This is Minecraft. The option is in your hands. You choose what you want to do with it. But with all that being said, you guys have a fantastic day, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.